And Steve.
Apologies, meant to start the recording at the start.
Okay, fine. The AGM is going to be live streamed, and I've been asked by a number of people why we can't have the online voting in parallel with the voting in the room this particular time, because we had online voting at the Zoom webinar AGM last year. The problem is that to do that, it'll need a rule change. But myself, the admin committee, myself, Kilsh, Roger, and Andrew, who are all on this call tonight, we are actively looking at how to incorporate online voting in parallel with voting in the room. Both for the resolutions and for the contested posts, if assuming the posts are contested. So we will be looking at bringing resolutions in to get that up and running. It won't be up and running for Cardiff, but we hope that it will be up and running for Jersey, because it needs approval at the AGM in Cardiff. The other thing we're also looking at doing is charitable status. This was mentioned at the special general meeting. We've got approval from the membership to look at to investigate charitable status, not turning our association into a charity, but having charitable status in parallel with our association, so that money's raised for the president's charity and income and expenditure on things that like the Millennium Way and the Arboretum and anything else that we want to, any other community activity that we want to do, or charitable activity we want to do, we can raise money for that, and we can disperse money for that and keep it separate from the association's income and expenditure. So we're actively looking at doing that as well. So that's basically you know, what we're doing and what we're looking at the moment. So okay. That's me, Colin.
Yeah, thanks, Bernard. Like you said, if just to keep the thing moving along, if you've got any questions for Bernard, just put them into the chat within Zoom, and then if there's any at the end that you think of and you want to ask, we can deal with them at that point. Okay, next we've got Dom. You're up.
Thank you very much.
I'll spotlight you if I can find you.
Let me see. Thank you very much, everyone. Apologies, I had a work commitment this evening, so I'm logging in from that. Just one thing, could you allow me to share files as well, please, Colin?
Okay, I've made you a host.
Otherwise, I might need you to take me to run through it.
You should be able to. I've made you a co-host. Does that let you?
Let me just see 1 second.
Try again.
No, I'm afraid I'm going to have to ask you to run through my slides if you don't mind.
Yeah, no worries. I will. I'll maybe unspotlight you and make sure that works. 2 seconds. I'll just get your slides up. Do one here.
You're not shared on. Okay, go on.
Is that sharing?
That's sharing. Thank you very much indeed. So what I wanted to tell everyone about tonight was basically what the comms and IT team have been up to since we came into office. So if you could just move on to the next slide.
Yep.
The slide's too big on the screen share.
Here we go. So basically, when we look at what we're responsible for and what the plans are. So the comms and IT team is responsible for what goes into print in terms of the magazines. The newsletters, which are, unlike the magazines, are distributed monthly on a digital basis. We assist with special publications. We had the How to Die Well publication, which was issued in May 2021. We assisted with Fellowship putting together the Members Handbook, which was distributed in September 2020, and recently a National Councillors Guide, which went out in October 2021. As far as the members are concerned, we're trying to actually set up, we've had a big increase in what we get up to on Facebook. We've obviously had the members forum, set up regional groups and special interest groups, and special interest groups have been one of the big successes of the year. We've also been involved with the 41 Club Connects and organising the Zoom events. Buddyline, which was set up by Comms and is now run by Peter McBride and a new welfare committee, which has been an amazing success. Amongst the special interest groups, we've got the 41 Club Wine Club, which is run by myself and Kevin Chard, and the 41 Club Whisky Appreciation Group, which is run by Peter McBride, Glenn Lyon and Peter Milburn. On the digital side, on the IT side, we've introduced CAS2, which is managed by Steve Tasker in the group. We're working on the website and progress has been made in transitioning it to a fit for purpose website. So we are getting there. The new website will be much more like the 41 Club Connects site is at the moment. We've got those two running side by side. But at some stage, we'll actually be able to make the changes that we actually want on the .org site. If you could move on to the next slide, please, Kevin.
Colin?
Apologies, thank you very much.
Oh, no, they sound the
That's all right.
Yeah. This is something which I've taken from the, it's part of communication is trying to make sure that the membership are aware of everything that's happening. And what we're stressing here is the decline in RTBI membership. This graph was presented by the National Membership Officer, Glenn Lyon, in his 2021 AGM reports, and you'll be seeing it later on tonight as well. But looking at the statistics that are showing, in 1956, RTBI had a membership of 13,700, 67 it was 27,500, 77, 37,700. By 1992, that dropped back to 19,000. At the turn of the 2020s, it was circa 3,300. And now it's circa 2,850. So basically what we're really saying is that if you look at further into those statistics, an 18-year-old in 1992 would now be 47, and one who was retiring at 40 would be 69. So basically the font, as I said, the font which feeds 41 Club members is simply running dry. We need to try to get RTBI membership going, but without that, we're going to necessarily have a declining membership profile. And we're starting to see that come through now as we're getting less people, obviously smaller people joining at the bottom and more people, unfortunately, dropping off at the top. If you could move to the next slide, please, Colin.
Oh, I jumped too far there.
That's it, yeah. So basically, in terms of what we're responsible for on the financial side, we've got CAS2, the website, the magazine, and 41 Club Connects. And if you move on to the next slide. So you'll see the accounts proper from the treasurer later, and he's going to go into great detail. But what I wanted to do is just give you a brief overview on where we are. So if I could draw your attention to, first of all, the income line, which is basically saying the total income that we've been receiving throughout the years. And as you see, it was in the 200,000s until 2019, and then it dipped in 2020, basically because of the COVID pandemic. Now, this year, it's looking to, it's still below what we actually had in 2020, but we anticipate, Treasury anticipates, we'll get a bit more, but we'll basically be on a par with the 2020 figures by the end of the year. But if you look at the expenditure side as well, we've kept control of the expenditure, even though we've got a higher budgeted amount because the budgeted income was higher, budgeted expenditure was also higher. But our actual expenditure as at 31st of October was 134,757 compared to 154,000 for the whole of 2020 and 204,000 for 2019. So I'm not trying to make this into a treasurer's report because you'll get that later, but what I'm basically trying to show you to the members is that the board is confident that we're actually living within our means at the moment. If you have a look at the general reserves, which Nick laid down, although our 2021 budget as presented was forecasting a potential deficit, at the moment it looks like we're one for a very minor deficit at the end of this year, and we've actually had a surplus at 2020, and the Treasurer will carry on to the reasons behind that. So in terms of our responsibility within that, we've got IT costs, which principally are coming down over time. They were increased in 2020 because we actually started the program of change on the CAS2 side. But the reason why you spent that money up front was basically so you could bring the costs down going forwards. In terms of the magazine side, that costs are pretty static. But the biggest issue we have with the magazine is whilst the printing costs are lowering because we have fewer issues printed, the postage cost is a major element, and that continues to climb. So if we actually look at where we are now in terms of our capitation based on income, I think we're going to need to have some resources to do something about it going forwards. But these will be shared later on, so you can actually have a chance to look at them properly. Okay, Colin, if you look to the next slide, please. Are there any questions?
I guess we were going to leave questions for the message, the messenger app, but yeah, okay. So apologies if not everybody, I think some people are having difficulty seeing that correctly zoomed. Hopefully you saw everything. Okay.
So one thing that we have said is that this is a chance for people to provide feedback to us and to hear it directly from us. But everything that happens tonight will be written up in the next newsletter. So any questions or any documents and so forth, you'll have a chance to see them properly and to digest the details.
Right, well, you asked for messages or questions to be sent through chat. I've done that immediately the meeting started. So my question is in there.
Yeah, I've seen it, Neil. I thought it was more relevant to the Treasurer. You can ask it now.
Yeah, by all means. But there's the initial opening gambit on that chat. I hope you've all seen it now.
Yeah,
is more wide scoping than with the Treasurer. I've spoken at depth. Thank you very much, Kevin. I know you put up with me last night. You had things to do. He was very patient and very gracious. I'm afraid I chewed Kevin's ear last night. He's grateful that he had to rush off. I am very concerned, and that's in my opening gambit about that. So that addresses the whole issue of 41, and particularly the website, which I know has been mentioned. You're trying to address it, and by crikey, it should be. But later on in that question, there's some specifics, and I wonder if those could be addressed, please.
So the specifics being, it's not possible to find current accounts on the 41 members website.
Yeah, that's one of the specifics to do with transparency.
Yeah,
Kevin, I found as much as is available. Kevin, I'd spoken to Kevin, he rang me back and tried to address that issue, and there's no more accounts available than I'd already got. They don't run current. So the figures we've just seen are the first time, certainly I have seen them. They are not available. And even if they are available, they're not available. Obviously, you have to hunt through, and they're in minutes of meetings, for heaven's sake. That is not transparent. So that needs addressing, I would say, forthwith. They should be immediately available, and they're not.
okay.
Well, I suppose all you can say is there any IT reason why they can't be on the website?
The only reason why you don't necessarily want everything on view other than behind the members area, and we've shied away from actually having a formal members area on the website.
I'm sorry, Don, could you say that again? Don, I missed that bit. I hope I did correctly.
Yeah, so in terms of the some of that public information, we'd want to share it amongst members, but we wouldn't necessarily want to share it with the wider world.
And on that website that's members only, it's not the wider world.
I think you'll find everything on the website is available to the wider world on 41club.org. Perhaps not. Surely there are, you don't need to log on to the website into
okay. So again, okay. I accept that.
So Neil, it's one of the things we're looking at.
Yeah. Okay. So then perhaps it should be available through the CAS, or at least an area where only members have access to, because I know on open websites you can have a members login. They do that lots of times in businesses. So perhaps that should be something, could be something that should be addressed to give that transparency.
Yeah. No, it's a valid point, and we'll take it forward.
Thank you. So, I mean, that satisfied me somewhat. I look forward to having the new and improved website that we spent a fortune on IT and it hasn't come to fruition.
No money's been spent on the website other than the historical money which has been spent on the website. At the moment, we've been trying to cut the website costs.
Yeah, on one of the previous slides it was £8,000 so far this year or something. But in 2015, the last time full accounts were available that I can find, I might be wrong with 2015. But in one of the most recent accounts available, it was £20,000 on IT. And I have no way of knowing what that was about. It's before my time at 41 Kilbenny Road. But nevertheless, a lot of money, £8,000 or £20,000. It's a lot of money on IT for something that hasn't really produced. I know it's been addressed, so I'm happy to sort of leave the door ajar on that one. But I would like to open on the second part of my question. Sorry, Don.
The second part of your question is about
Specifics.
more details on expenses.
Yeah, that specifics is the second part I'm thinking of, the expenses.
Okay.
And other thing about that insurance. I am raging about this. I'm going to calm it down from last night. I'm raging about this. I cannot believe that insurance policy. So could you please explain that?
I couldn't, because it's not my area. It's the insurance policies, the secretary's area, but we can come back to that at the end. Is that okay?
Yes.
Don, it's Peter. Just to answer Neil's question, when one option we could consider is that if, and we know the website doesn't yet have a members only area, and that's something we know we're looking to fix. I wonder whether it's would be considered that we share the accounts with all of the secretaries or treasurers of the clubs on a regular basis. There's nothing to hide here. So is that something that, Kevin, we could look at going forward?
Yeah, I mean, the problem is obviously sometimes it's a bit out of kilter on the accounts, but one of the main things that I was going to bring up in my report is that I'm aware that there's a number of people that raised questions on the depth of the accounts, and I'm more than happy to make sure that there is a much more narrative on the accounts in future AGMs. I've really just carried on what's happened in the past, and I'm more than happy to change that.
Yeah, I think I would add to my point, Neil, as you said. I mean, this is an opportunity to get feedback from the members, and if there is a feeling that there's a lack of awareness of the numbers just taking account into the accounts themselves, then I think, you know, as I say, this is the association's accounts, the members' money. There's no issue about sharing accounts on an appropriate and regular basis. I mean, you don't want to be bombarded every week when they come out, but whether it's quarterly or whatever else, I really don't see that's an issue. It's about how do we make those visible, and I think I'm happy to support that in the board side. You're on mute, Neil. Yeah,
got me. Thank you, Peter. I appreciate that. Having been secretary of a handful of associations and treasurer of a couple, I am very communication orientated, and I have kept every time I've kept people up to date, not by the minute, more often than quarterly. Whenever an expenditure has left the building, as it were, or an income has been brought in, accounts have been updated, and that new account has been published. I acknowledge, appreciate it's a lot busier at the national level, so you can't be expected to do that. You'd be forever on the keyboard. A very regular update wouldn't be untoward. I don't see that circulating the latest accounts to a secretary would necessarily do it. I think that is kind of missing or creating an obstacle, creating another barrier. It needn't be that way. They could be published immediately, as and when, for all members to see. And if members of a 41 want information that they can't get access to, then they approach the secretary, whose job I would think it is to get it.
and that's my fault. I meant that as an interim solution
Right.
until we have easily accessible through a members area of the website. That's what I meant to say.
Yeah, okay, thank you, Peter. Yeah, I acknowledge that. Thank you. Yeah, just as a very, if everyone hogged the floor like I seem to be doing, we'd never get anywhere. I still would like some clarification on another point on the question, but background to this, I come across the account for the first time about 18 months, 18 months ago. We could still come out to play, or at that time we could. So we had some 41 lunches, and I mentioned what I'd seen on the accounts, albeit they weren't the most current. There were some jaws dropped. In our group, we have about 21 members, probably 16, 17 are active and get involved more. And there's a definite age gap of 15 to 20 years between the oldest of the newer, younger members and the youngest of the older members. Without fail, all the older members, I've got to say, there were only about 4 or 5 at this particular lunch that this was brought up, chuckled to themselves, because I said, I want to know more about this. And one chap who particularly was a treasurer of ours, and said, oh, you're digging into that, are you? And his words were, well, good luck with that. I hope you have more fun than we did. And I was shocked. I was shocked.
Well, we can deal with anecdotal comments, or we can deal with numbers. So I think, I don't know when that was, but here and now, here we are sharing open numbers and values. And I think there'd be no issue at all until, in an interim situation, until those numbers are easily accessible onto the website that is secure. I don't see any issue at all, and maybe putting words into your mouth, Kevin, whether it's on a quarterly basis or whatever, sharing that information with, you wouldn't want to send it to 14,000 members, because it's a waste of time, because then we get criticised for sharing too much information.
It's one click on an email, or it's one publication on the website.
The best way to do about it would be just to turn around and have a thing that if people would like to receive the financial information, let us know and we'll forward it to them.
Oh, that's a rather unsavoury even stopgap. That is not right. We shouldn't.
Okay, I mean, I think we've heard. I understand your concerns, Neil. Absolutely valid. It's your association. It's all of our association, and have transparency is absolutely spot on. Nobody here is wanting to hide anything. It's a matter of finding the most efficient way of doing that, isn't it? So let's look and see how we can do that. If that's a quarterly report, then so be it. It's going to take 2 seconds to send it through CAS on an email system, and then we can. I wouldn't send it to everybody. Perhaps send it to treasurers and chairmen, but whoever we send it to. But yeah, let's just do it.
Yeah.
I'm also conscious of time now, so
Yeah.
We're conscious of time, guys.
Okay.
Can we
So,
now move
if
on,
there's no other
guys?
questions. Yeah.
And can the questions be relevant to the speaker, please, and done through the chat room, like we said that we're going to run the meeting. Otherwise, it's going to be a shambles. These items will be dealt with, Neil, and we'll look at it further. So, Don, have you finished, or have you got more to say?
I've finished. Thank you very much, guys.
Thanks, Don. Can we now move on to Steve, please?
Hi, good evening all. I'm Steve James from Cambria 41 Club and Lantwick Nature 41 Club, and I'm the current National Fellowship Officer until the AGM in Cardiff. I want to give you an update on our members' benefits package and also our National Fellowship events. This is where I hope my IT skills won't let me down. Can everyone see that?
I can.
Yes, I can.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I'm trying to see how I skip the presentation now. So just really want to say, I'm really pleased to say that our national events are growing year on year. And I'm really indebted to all the organisers who put their hands up, offer to run an event. And I'm going to say they're truly really great fellowship and fun events. One dear to my heart is our National Sporting and Social Weekend, which is on 4th to 6th of February in Oakhampton, Devon. Really reasonable priced at £180 for a 2-day package, sharing that includes all sports, food and some drinks. on the Saturday night. We've then got the showcase event, the AGM and conference in Cardiff on the 31st of March to the 4th of April, followed by our motorcycle weekend, the 8th to 10th of July in Kings Lynn. And similarly, at the end of that month, we've got a car rally in Market Harborough, 29th to 31st of July. We have a new event that kick-started last year, a walking weekend, following on from the special interest groups. That's to be confirmed. We've had a number of interested parties express an interest for running next year. So I've been meeting the organisers last week and looking at the potential walks and hotels. And similarly, we've had a number of bids to come in for the caravan and camping weekend, which we look to put on in September. We also have a 41 club cruise, and this year we're going to Iceland for 11 nights, departing Liverpool on the 5th to 16th of September. In terms of our members' benefits, they are there for our members and they will save money. If you are savvy, then you can easily save money on the capitation. Don's already mentioned it. One of the things that I was keen to introduce last year was a members handbook that details all our members' benefits, as well as valuable information on 41 Club. Shopping, the benefits that will save you money. We signed up to the wider wallet, and that's an extensive scheme. Just to name a few stores that are part of it, we've got M&S, B&Q, Halford, Sainsbury's. We've also got Merlin Entertainments and a whole host of others. Cotswold Outdoors, Runners Need and Snow and Rock come up under the shopping. And one of the things that myself and the fellowship committee are keen to do is always looking how we can get wider discounts with all the retail outlets and other suppliers out there. In terms of travel, Fred Olsen, we've got a very good deal for our members. I'm also pleased to say that as part of the affinity deal, we do receive some income which goes back into the members' benefits. And I've got a proposal going to the AGM to say that I want to use that income for wider member benefit events and clubs if they need some help. We have some good deals with Best Western and Hilton Hotels, Potter's Resort, Needham Insurance, #travel, and a new scheme with travel counsellors, which will be launched in the magazine just before Christmas. In terms of motoring, we have Heritage Insurance, Hyundai, MBC Leasing, and again, we'll be launching in the magazine a new Select Car Leasing, and that's a UK company. In terms of home and leisure, we have the Utility Warehouse, well worth looking at considering the gas and electric prices are on the increase. With Patrick Foods, Noveltunity and Any Stoves. In terms of dining, very popular one by some of our members at the moment, Luban, and Don has mentioned it. We've also got the 41 Connects programs that I think have been exceptionally well run and put on during the COVID pandemic. As Pete mentioned, he wanted to do something different, and it's been a highly successful event. One of the things that I'm keen to do is learn and move things on and adapt. And there has been some comments about the cost of the conference and AGM. We're stuck with Cardiff as it's only a few months away. And obviously the reason that we had to commit to Cardiff was to save the association from losing losses in 2020. And last night I launched a survey with the help of our honorary webmaster, looking at some questions to members and also some feedback as to everyone's views as to how we can shape and influence our future conferences. And that concludes my presentation. I'm happy to take questions now or through the chat bar, but thanks very much for your time.
Okay. Yeah, I think I'll try and keep questions to the end, not because I don't want to ask them now or answer them now. It's just going to keep things moving along quicker, guys. All right, next up we have Peter McBride, the NCLO. You're muted, Pete. Hold on,
You're on mute.
You're still muted.
Schoolboy error on mute. What a disaster. What a way to start. Well, I heard what I was saying anyway. Nobody else did, and it sounded really good. My name is Peter McBride. I'm the NCLO, which is the National Councillors Liaison Officer. Our association is structured into 25 different regions, and I just want to share that with you for those not aware. I hope you can all see that. We have 25 regions, right from regions 1 and 2 in Scotland, region 3 in Ireland, right across Great Britain and Ireland. Each region has its own national councillor whose role it is to communicate with all the clubs within his region, to share national information with each club, to bring club information up to the National Council and make them aware of any issues, and to be basically the conduit between national and the clubs. Each councillor is expected to visit at least 2 clubs a month in addition to his own club, and submit a quarterly report outlining all of their activities and the general health of the clubs within their regions. And I'll stop sharing now. And basically my role as NCLO is to oversee those national councillors, make sure they're doing the role as they are deemed to be, should be doing. It's a bit like herding cats at times, but also my role is to chair a quarterly, we have a quarterly councillors meeting where all the councillors come together and discuss the reports that we share with each other. Those reports are, or certainly should be, made available to all the membership on the website. And it's also my role to represent all the national councillors at the board meetings. All members should be in touch with their councillors. If they're not, you should email them at region XX, where XX is your region number, regionxx@footyoneClub.org, or contact me at councillor liaison at footyoneClub.org. The other area I've been involved in has been mentioned a couple of times previously. Last November, we set up the Buddy Line, which was, I helped set it up, the Buddy Line, which is a single support telephone number for any member between 10 a.m. and 10 p.m., 7 days a week, who just wants to chat. It's manned by 20 volunteer buddies who are all 41 Club members from around the country. And we have a rota of 2 or 3 buddies a day who take it in turns to answer any Buddy Line calls that come in. The calls are anonymous, are answered by your friendly 41 Club buddy, and will simply be there just to have a chat about anything that's worrying a member. Members may be lonely or fed up or feeling isolated, or just have lost touch with an old club. The calls we've had to date include somebody who just lost touch with an old friend and a mentor. We were managed to put that person in touch with somebody who phoned up and actually didn't even know why they phoned up. They had everything in life, but there was something missing and just wanted to chat.
You're frozen, Pete. Oh dear.
It's running. We're pleased to stand.
Freezing up,
To the support net underneath you. The answer is no, because every now and again somebody's going to fall into that.
Can you hear us, Pete? Oh, he's gone.
Yeah.
Hello, you still there?
Yeah. You
froze.
went a bit off on the audio there for some reason.
Did I? Sorry, I'm sorry about that. Okay, well, basically, the Buddy Line is in place now. And one of the things I would want to say is that we're looking for more buddies. So please share the word. If anybody you know would like to be a buddy, as I say, we have 2 or 3 buddies a day. We have 20 in total. We're looking for more buddies just to be available and listen to a call every now and again. please email me at welfare@41club.org. But other than that, I'm happy to take any questions from that point of view.
Okay, well, that's good. Thanks, Pete. Next up, we have Andy Ventris, who is our IRO. Andy, are you? Looks like you're unmuted. So
yeah, I'm unmuted.
Perfect. Let you go for it.
Cheers. Thank you, Colin. Gentlemen, good evening. I'm a member of Moseley and Heart of England in Region 15 in the Midlands. I'm also the National IRO. Some of you might think that International 41ing completely came to a halt during lockdown. It didn't. There was actually more meetings to attend than there are normally. They've been virtual, but I did attend all the virtual meetings, the AGMs, the HYMs, and also an IRO meeting nearly every week on a Friday night was attended by up to 30, 40 of us each week. It certainly allowed me to get to know many of the other IROs from other countries much, much quicker than previous IROs may have been able to do when they've met them. International travel has restarted with its difficulties of passenger locator forms, etc., but it has been possible in this latter part of this year for me to represent us at Belgium and in Malta. I've also represented us on the Romanian AGM, but that again was a virtual AGM. Romania still being in some form of lockdown. The other meeting, which was the international half-yearly meeting in Verona, attended by several of the countries that are on the international circuit. There was an absence of about 4 countries. What have we been doing in GB&I? My international committee we have formed has been working very hard with the help of Mark House, the webmaster. We have had a questionnaire sent out. We have got those replies collated, and we are now looking into analysing the results. One of the things that we want from that is that we become more transparent with what is going on in 41 International, and we want to know what you want to know about 41 International. On that front, we have introduced a specific international newsletter. The first edition we had published in early September, and at the present time we are preparing our second edition, and we hope that will go out in early January. We're also developing a micro website so that we are more transparent with all the information we've got. And I, at this stage, also thank our YAP convener, Bruce, who I believe I've seen on the meeting tonight. Thank you, Bruce. He has represented us in Frankfurt at the YAP meeting this year, and GB&I will be holding its first YAP tour in 2023. There is a chance for our youngsters, if YAP tours go ahead in 2022, to join any of those tours to India, South Africa, or other parts of Europe. So we're working on that, and hopefully things will improve across the world, and YAP tours will be able to go ahead. Bruce and I are a little bit worried about the consequences of either accepting youngsters into GB&I or sending them to other countries, but we will have to wait and see as to how the pandemic pans out. Okay, other than that, plans for 2022, most countries have now decided that they will go with AGMs, not virtual, and all those events are in the calendar on the website. It's in the events tab. If you click on any of the events, if there is, or I have any more information, a website where you can look at, get more information, then that is displayed then. One or two that might be of interest to some people if anybody is doing any 41 international work before, is there will be a first international meeting of Senegal 41 Club in Dakar on the 24th to the 28th of March. They were going to have it the same weekend as us, but have been persuaded not to, and therefore it is the week before. I will certainly be going, jabs, etc., yellow fever, etc., that will be needed to get in there. If there's any more information that you would like, gentlemen, international@41club.org, and I will answer as soon as I possibly can. Thank you.
Thanks, Andy. Okay, and next up we have our Vice President, Mr. Jim Conway.
There we go, all unmuted as well. Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Very appreciative of this. I'm National Vice President, member of 5 clubs, Lots, Smethwick, OBEs, Pert and Birmingham Jewellery Quarter. Just a little bit about me. I'm married to Vicky, no kids, live in the tropical paradise, which is otherwise known as Stourbridge, and love sports, so football, rugby, cricket. You can talk to me for that for hours. So this year, it's been basically prepping for next year, supporting Peter Good when called upon, and getting out and about to do some club visits. But the main role of the Vice President is the forward planning. So the big question I always ask is, are we the club of choice for tablers coming through? If not, what will make us the club of choice? So thinking about existing members, round tablers, and also what I call the non-converters, those that have been in table but have not come across to 41 Club, is asking the question, what needs to be done? So there are things we need to stop, things we need to continue and improve upon, and also things we need to start doing that we're not doing already. So the first challenge went out to the board and regional councillors to actually go out and accumulate ideas. We came back with 98 ideas. And I'll probably put my hand on my heart. I don't think that is going to make us the club of choice, but it's a very, very good starting point. The board then met, allocated out all of those ideas to board members and their committees, and those ideas are currently being worked on by the committees, some of which you will hear about tonight, others which will come forward when we do the council meeting at the beginning of next year. It's very much 41 Club has to be like a menu. So we offering different things for different people, respecting traditional, but keeping one eye on the future and making sure that we are that club of choice for the next generation, as well as the current one. If anybody's got any questions, I'm more than happy to answer them.
Okay, thanks, Jim. We'll move on now to Glenn, our membership officer.
Hello. Hi. I'm not popping up.
There we go.
Thank you. Good evening. Apologies for being late. Unfortunately, I was working until 20 minutes after the meeting started. So apologies for that, but I'm here now. We have a membership. I think Don probably showed you a slide earlier, which he may have borrowed from one of mine previously, which shows that the peak membership for Round Table was in the 1980s. The fact is 41 Club membership lags Round Table's peaks and troughs by about 20 years. So fundamentally, in the 2000s was our peak membership from the natural flow. Declining membership offers fewer opportunities to recruit retiring tablers. This year it was 158 retiring tablers. That was our maximum recruitment potential from the retiring tablers if we did 100%. Sadly, our figure's closer to 25% than 100%. And that's something we need to work on, as Jim said. We need to make us the choice, the club of choice for these guys as they come out of table. We're sitting at about 13,500 members just now on our system. We know we have some clubs which are closing, winding up. We were told of one last week where the youngest member was 71 and his colleagues were all 10 years older than him, and they felt that it was time to call it a day. Sadly, I can't complain when somebody's given probably 60 years of life to the Roundtable family. There is a time when he has to decide to hang it up and they're not getting out. So we have to replace these members to keep 41 Club going. The good news is, if you can call it good news, we missed 5,000 odd, as Jim called them, guys who didn't join 41 Club but retired from Roundtable. They went off and did other things, went to Rotary, went to Lions, went to some other association. Part of our mission, which should have been in the last 2 years, but sadly COVID got in the way, was to go out and reach out to these guys and remind them that it's not mutually exclusive. You can be a Rotarian and a 41er, because the only way you can support Roundtable and help them to get back where they should be is by being part of the family. And that's what we're looking to do. We're looking to recruit these guys back into the family so we can be strong and be able to offer support and help to table where we can and where they need it. So these ex-tablers are floating about out there. I will give you an example. On Friday night, I had the great privilege of being made the president of my local club, Vale of Evesham 295 Roundtable, by my son, who is the current chairman of Evesham 295. At the dinner, it was a charter dinner, the chap serving was helping his wife out. He'd moved to the town in the last year. He's an ex-tabler from Wolverhampton. So, quick as a flash, we're all over him like a rash. We've got him signed up and he's coming to join us at our next meeting. These guys are out there just wanting to be asked. He was desperate to be asked because he's the one that said, oh, by the way, I used to be an ex-tabler myself. So they're out there in our community, and we need to reach out to them, and that's got to be the mission from the membership, is to get out there, get our name about. That was part of the raison d'etre for the bandanas earlier this year, to help people protect themselves, but also to show Roundtablers don't die when they get 45. They carry on to 41 Club, and they still do stuff. They still get out there. We still are in the community. We just need to be proud of what we are and let people know that. It goes back to an old Louis Marchese phrase, but by precept and example, we need to show people it's good fun to be 41ers. And that's what we're trying to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Glenn. 2 seconds. All right, next up we have Kevin, our treasurer, which I'm sure we'll have a few questions for later.
Yep. When I get to the present bits, if you'd like to share the spreadsheet, that would be great.
Yeah, I can do that. Just let me know when you want me to share it.
Yeah. I'm Kevin Lovett. I'm from Cheadle and Gatley 41 Club and Dragons 41 Clubs. I joined the board just a few weeks after the first lockdown in April 2020. My main role is to pay the expenses in line with the association's expenses policy, ensure we meet all our financial obligations, make sure that we keep within our own financial rules, and keep the accounts, basically. So I look after the money coming in and the money coming out. So I've split this into sort of 3 different areas, which is, life in the past, which is when we had a lot of members over the years. Capitation was very, very low, going back 20 years ago. you know, you're in pounds. And it's still, to some people, it's still relatively low to date. We were very fortunate that we were supported by a lot of industry and what have you. And particularly, the president used to get a free car given to him, basically to use on 41 Club business during the course of his time as president. Sadly, this isn't the case anymore. So one of the things that we looked at as an association was to see how many miles that the national president would do in any one particular year. And it's roughly about 20,000. We looked at that in line with if he were to use his own car, that would be very expensive for both him and the association under our policy. So we found it was cheaper and more effective to lease a car for him and pay the relevant costs that went with it. Many cost savings have already been introduced over the years as they've been addressed, and we've become more tech savvy with the way we run things. And we've looked at improving the membership database, which is CAS2, which is where you receive all your emails from. And we've created alternative websites. So now let's go on to the present. And if we can have a look at the figures, please, Colin.
Yep. Let me know if you can see this. And if you need me to zoom in or out, let me know.
Well, you probably need to go out a bit so that we can see everything.
Okay, I just wasn't sure I'd be able to read it.
If hopefully people can read it. So
there's the top's just probably the heading.
Yeah, that's fine. You can see it. That's fine.
Yeah.
People can adjust their own screens, by the way. They can.
Yeah, you can zoom in and out.
So this is the outturn. I mean, that's just a historic name for it, but that's what we've spent to date in this year, and that's up to the 31st of October 2021. I've also shown what I have predicted for the how we might look at the end of this year. Still got 5 weeks to go. There's still plenty of time for both money to come in and money to go out. One line that I'm particularly going to pick up on is obviously the magazine, because it's showing only one magazine that we've had so far this year. Since the 31st of October, I've now paid for the second magazine that's coming out very, very shortly. And there will be a third magazine attributed to this year, which will come out early in the new year. I think we've decided it's going to be just after National Sporting Weekend. That'll be attributed to this year, because it was decided to highlight the good things, and that clubs have now been able to get out and about and meet again. People always ask me about the reserves, and for those that remember back to the final 2020 accounts, we had just over £250,000 in reserves. As you can see, I'm forecasting a small deficit for this year, and I'm expecting the reserves to come just below 250,000 at the end of the year. I'd like to take credit for the fact that we're in a very healthy financial position, but basically it's down to the clubs who've continued to pay the capitation fees in, and obviously due to COVID, we haven't spent in line with our budget. So what about the future? Well, one thing I said earlier is that I've already agreed that we will have more detailed accounts, which will be presented at the AGM. I do a monthly set of accounts, and I produce a set of accounts for the National Council on a quarterly basis. They can look a bit skewed at the beginning of a year, which is always difficult to work out, but once you get to see the run of them, I'm sure that everybody will begin to understand how they get it, they come about. We're still playing catch up, as you'll see from the top of that. On the income side, we've so far this year, I think I estimated we were about £25,000 down on capitation from 2020, and so far we've collected nearly £11,000 of that, and we're continuing to collect 2020 capitation. A lot of the 2021 capitation has now been received, but there's still quite a lot outstanding, and we anticipate that this will be caught up during the course of next year. We're not out of the woods yet in respect of the COVID, which is still giving us a challenging situation. Well, I personally will feel much better when Cardiff Conference takes place, and because obviously that's a big cost to the association if it's unable to happen. Future budgets are going to reflect the changes in membership levels, and we hope to get back to a break-even situation as soon as possible. I've got an exceptionally keen and enthusiastic committee who are looking at all aspects to secure the best outcome for the future of 41 Club over the next few years. And on a much more lighter note, because I know that's all a lot of figures, and I'd just like to thank one person who last week sent the association some money for some rugby tickets. Not sure you're going to receive them if you're on the on this call, but I will try and track you down and send you the money back. But thank you. I'm sure there will be questions, and I'll be more than happy to answer them at the end.
Thank you, Kevin. So finally, we have Andrew, our IPP. I'll just spotlight you for everyone.
Good evening, gentlemen. Andrew McCarrath, Highlands and Chairman just recently of the Highlands and Islands Scotland 41 Club, Lancaster and Dragons. I was president 2019, 2020, and due to COVID, I lost the last 3 weeks, but we had a fantastic year. The role of the IPP is to help board when required with advice and whatever, due to my past experience, also to act as a mentor to board and council. I'm on the rules committee, which is going to be quite busy coming up soon. I represent 41 Club at the Arboretum on Remembrance Sunday. I assist with special projects when and if required, and as important for the board to act as tea and coffee monitor at board meetings. But I'm now an expert on virtual tea brewing. So thank you very much, gentlemen, and it's been a great pleasure to do this short presentation tonight.
Okay, thank you very much. Thanks, Andrew. Okay, well, I guess we can go back to the questions, but I think we've only seemed to have the questions from Neil. I don't know, now that we've gone through the presentation and the obviously the accounts there as well, I don't know, Neil, have you got any more questions you'd like to raise just now?
Well, thank you, Colin. I do appreciate being given the chance. Yeah, of course. I'm going to follow up a couple of things. First of all, Glenn, I've chatted a question to you, Glenn, so everyone's aware then. Our team membership, I came over to 41 in April 3 years ago. I mentioned this great disparity in ages, so they were gagging for somebody else to take the reins, and so 3 or 4 of us came over from the table and jumped on and took all the roles, the officers. Prior to that, I was in round table and I attended a few area meetings too. My God, it should not be a surprise that 41 is struggling to have these converts come from round table. Round table is in a mess as well. Their organisation is rather poor. My experience of those meetings it's just a talking shop with a few beers thrown in, or maybe a lot of beers with a few chats thrown in. I was appalled. It's supposed to be a professional, outward-looking organisation. These were backslapping and backpatting. There was nothing going on. I raised a point about how stuck in the mud round table is. It's shocking. Those guys need to kick up the jacksie, and perhaps we would then get some quality candidates. Regarding directly getting guys from round table in, we have tried in Grimsby. We have tried. I would suggest there's a major difference between young, and I was a great advocate for saying we shouldn't be kicked out of table at 41/45. We've got a lot to offer. Times are gone when at 45 you was past it. So I said, you're stuck in the mud, round table. You've got to wake up. Young guys do not want to do everything, leaving their partner and kids at home. Women are no longer tied to the sink. That was from the 40s. It doesn't happen anymore. These young guys in round table, I suggest, see it as something for young guys. They then get to the age where they're now no good for round table, they're too old, and they, I would suspect, breathe a sigh of relief because they no longer feel obligated. They'll pop up here and there, they should put their head above the parapet. I think it's a different problem in round table itself than 41 getting these converts. That's my opinion on that. Secondly, sorry, Kev. Of course, you know I've got bones to pick with all of it, but this is the second point and the final point I've got to make. If we're spending that much on magazines a year, it's forecast at 38,000 for this year. We've spent 15.5. We've got 1, 2, 3 publications to finish. Where's all this money going on magazines? But how many are we printing? Magazines?
14,000.
All that much. And that ends my questions. Thanks, guys. Thank you very much for the airtime.
Yeah, no problem, Neil.
Yep.
It's always good to hear, everybody's comments, because I think some of us have similar concerns.
Is Don still on?
He's gone. No, he's off.
He's gone.
So
Okay.
I'm assuming it's the full capitation number of magazines that we're sending out.
And a bit more, but it's a normal list. It doesn't quite time, but it's 40 odd thousand magazines. So they're about £1 a piece, which if you look at the thickness and depth and quality of it, to be fair, you would pay £3.5 to £5 for that and they would make a profit out of it. So we've also got a poster now, and postage now £1.50 a pop, I think. So it's an expensive hobby to get them out there, I'm afraid. It's just one of these. But sorry, Neil, if I can just say, the one thing I would say is we know by experience, Rotary tried to bin their magazine a few years ago, and they actually lost an enormous amount of members, just walked out on them on the back of their. Now, their magazine's more impressive than ours, I will admit that now, but it's a damn sight more expensive as well. I think we provide a nice magazine for what our members want. And if they don't, they're really going to tell us that they don't. And that's what we're looking for. We're hoping to try and be more engaging. What we would like to see is that our boards and councils are perceived not as a pyramid going up the way, but as a support structure below the clubs. We're here to help you guys, to help yourselves. Now, if you've got a real problem with your table over there, I'm the national, as well as membership, I'm also roundtable liaison. I'm happy and I would be delighted to come across there meet up with you and your tablers. We'd even drag along Paul Thompson, national president for Round Table, because he's only down the road from you. Get together and actually have a proper get together and build some bridges, because that's what we're going to do. I'm doing actually in my own club as part of the president's role. What we're doing is we're getting the girls together. We've got a ladies' circle, which is remote from table. It's not the old model, which was, it was your wife went there and you went there. We've got girls with only 2 crossovers. We've got blokes only 2 crossovers. Now, what we're looking to do is to work on that and build some bridges back again, because it's become a bit of a thing where by not talking to each other, people don't talk to each other. And when they do talk to each other, it tends to be almost an aggressive talk to each other there. It's your fault, it's their fault, it's whatever. What we're trying to do is break that all down and just, let's get together, let's have a chat, sit over a cup of coffee or a pint, and let's just see how we can help each other to get this fantastic associations back together again where we should be. We should be at 25,000, table should be at 10,000, ladies' circle should be at 10,000. That's where we need to be. How do we get there? What do we have to do to change ourselves to do that? And by involving discussion, and that's what we want to do. So we're delighted you've come along, Neil, and thrown some brickbats in there, because that's what we need. People actually question it, because otherwise you're trundling along happily going, we're doing a fantastic job, boys, this is brilliant. And we're not. We know we're not, because we would be 25,000 strong just now. We would have every tabler would recruit straight across. We had a huge gap caused by the age rule change. We're still feeling that 20 years after that. And that's not an excuse, that's a fact of life. That's a real fact there. And those are the ones I'm aiming for just now, because they're the immediate catch that we can get now, who are ready-made, ex-tablers, who fell through the gap because of the age rule change, and it dicked around and everyone got lost as what they were doing, when they were moving, and the gap became huge. So they were looking at really old blokes. Rather than, when I dare say, a mature chap, when you were a tabler, a 45-year-old bloke who'd been at a table 4 years looked like he was fucking ancient. So you would never want to go for, but that joke became a reality. As you moved, the gap got huge. We had a 10-year dip between the guys now. Because they clawed a whole lot back and then kicked them out again, that gap got larger. And that's been a big thing for us to... And I think we're getting there slowly, but it's taken 10, 15 years to get back to a point where we're getting close and we're running out of steam. And that's the worry. We need to keep the momentum going, keep the excitement going, keep the energy going. In fact, Neil, if you are up for it, I'm looking to broaden the membership committee. So we're not just looking at the rarefied atmosphere of national councillors and board members, but we get real live people out there in the coal face who are trying to make 41 Club work. If you're up for that, I would love to have you on board with us.
Yeah, okay, well, thanks for your response, and there's no doubt your enthusiasm for 41 and roundtables in general. I'll be in touch about membership.
Thank you, I appreciate that. Thanks.
Yeah. And so to wrap up that element of it, I think there's still a point being missed about roundtable. The young guys come in with the energy of youth, and at 40, 45, those guys are now producing children. I know there's women on the meeting, sorry girls. They're having children at that age. They've established a career, and frankly, the time, it's like almost flipped. Those guys now are starting to do things that a younger person might have 20 years ago. Yeah. They're developing a career, getting trained, getting educated, getting a life, being part of round table. And now at that age, I would suggest that perhaps it's not their ideal to go to 41. They see round table as the ultimate aim. Perhaps not a lot of awareness of 41, although I've got to say at Grimsby, we've always kept a toe dipped in the water of 41 just because they're there. And we see them occasionally in the past. So I think there's a bit of not a full understanding, I'll close now, and not a full understanding of what roundtablers are actually now, what their demographics are.
I think we need to discuss this at length over a pint properly, because I have spent a lot of time doing this, because as I say, part of my role is to work with them, and I see where they are. I also see where we can help them, And I can see places we need to step back from helping them too much because it appears we're interfering, and then they get hackles up again, and that becomes a nightmare. In our own club, we're down in numbers in round table. We're down to half a dozen core guys who turn out. We get 42 of us in our 41 club. We can offer support, we can help, but we've been asked. So we've been asked now to help. They've come to us and said, look, we realise where we're here. Can you help us, guys? And that's what we need, is that open dialogue. And that's what I'm talking about, building bridges that way, is we need an open dialogue where we encourage real conversations that people can honestly say what they want to say. They can call me an old dick if they want to call me an old dick, because I've got some idea from 1900 that worked, 1927 that worked by then. But if that then suddenly somebody sits back and goes, actually, maybe we should try that. We haven't done that for a few years. Maybe we should give it a little go. And it's just about opening up and broadening experiences and sharing. And that's what we're hoping to do. And what we need is 41 Club to be there for them. I mean, they're down at 2,870 odd members now across the country. So we are there to help them. We've got to be.
That's the numbers. Less than 3,000. Is that the numbers in round table?
Yeah. It's quite sad, really.
So actually, 41 is very strong in that, relatively speaking.
It's 4 times not 5 times the number. Yeah. But it's not about strength or weakness. It's about support and help, and that's what we need to be there for. And I think that's got to be important. The big concern is that these guys are trying, but they're knocking themselves out now. And that's the bigger problem I've got, is they're burning themselves out because there are 6 guys doing what, when we were there was 12 guys. When you were there was 24 guys doing the same thing.
Across the board. It must be the same across the board. We had 6 hardcore, did everything. 4 of those have left to 41.
Yeah. So I think we need to go, and again, I think if we can make the choice and the move across to 41 Club easier for them when they get to that point there, because they know the guys. That's the important bit there, is that building bridges means that they know. So it's Bob and it's Bert and it's Fred and it's Glenn and it's Neil, that they know they can come across to. They're all right blokes. They're a bit old, but they're all right, really. And that's what you want them to feel. And that's what I've got. I've got the guys in our club. One's 40 this year, and he comes to 41 Club meetings as well as doing table stuff there when he can. And that's them building that gentle move across. And that's what you want it to be, a gentle move across rather than a mad cut and gone. That's it, lads, you're it. Cheers, bye-bye. I've given them birthday cards this year. We actually sent out birthday cards to all the aging out round tablers across the country. And it was signed by me and the national president of the table at the time, just saying, thanks for your good work, guys. Here, you can keep in with the family, you can keep going with your tabling if you want to. Here's 41 Club details, give us a shout. We've had a few people connect us directly. We've had a lot of people going and looking for their own clubs. It's starting to work. We're trying different ways. But thank you again for your input. I'd love to catch up with you. Cheers.
Yep. No, that's great. We've got another message.
I think there's a few more questions on the chat now, Colin.
Yeah, there's about 25 in one from Marcus Jones. I don't know whether you want me to break this down a bit.
Yeah.
I think it's to you, Glenn. The first one of his multi-part questions is, are there any future member benefits in the pipeline?
That's not me, that's I hate to pass it on, but I'm going to pass that across to our fellowship officer.
And thanks, Glenn. Thanks for the question, Marcus. I think, we've just signed 3 new deals that will showcase in the magazine. And one of those deals is part of the Travel Counsellors Network. And the discussions I've had with that UK network is to look at, they are now putting together a package where we can do similar deals with other cruise lines. So opening up the opportunity for a wider attraction, because obviously Fred Olsen attracts a certain demographic. And they're also looking at putting up some proposals to perhaps run a 41 Club trip in terms of a holiday. So one of the things, as you'd probably expect me to say, is Safari seem keen, and also with the Rugby World Cup, is this something that we can offer our members who may be going to the World Cup in terms of travel and hotels. And in terms of other ones, I had a discussion when I was in Scotland with a Scottish hotel group who seemed interested, and the rest, the team on the fellowship committee is still exploring. But if anyone knows of any company, any organisation that may be open to offering members benefits, then I'm more than happy to discuss and see what we can come in the pipeline.
Right, the question then goes on. It says, what top 3, and I read this as membership ideas,
Yeah, this one
are being discussed for proposal?
This next part's mine. Yes, thank you. This is the question of open membership. There are a couple of for planning. I mean, oh, sorry. I'm reading the question at the same time as I'm asking. Sorry. Right. The conversation on open membership has been raised. It was raised about 4 years ago and was narrowly defeated by a couple of percent, I believe. I believe it is able to be raised again by clubs directly from the floor at Cardiff, because if a substantive motion is defeated in a AGM, you can't bring it back for 2 or 3 years after that. I believe that's now available for clubs to offer that as a proposal. I've always had a view on open being the wrong word for that. I think you have to qualify somewhere in there. You have to have some means of ensuring that they're the right kind of bloke. You ain't just going to invite someone along because he's got a pulse and walks past your door. He needs to be someone who would fit into a club, who would be an association. I can understand that some people were unfortunate not to be able to be tablers because of their work, if they were in the forces or they were in the police or whatever, that didn't afford them the ability to allow regular commitment to a club. Again, in the day, you had to have a certain level of attendance at a round table. If you couldn't commit to that, you weren't allowed in. So there's a lot of people who were barred because of those kind of things, who would have made bloody good tablers at the end of the day. And sometimes we might have been too far up our own tail in being self-important about it and didn't invite. I would say something controversial about why I didn't join until I was 40. But the place I lived in before, it wasn't a welcoming place to join. It was a collective who had their own thing and didn't invite people into it. So there are people out there who would make bloody good tablers. They have got young male relatives, young male work colleagues, young male friends. If, again, I'll use the phrase precept and example, if we, by precept and example, can show these guys the passion we have for 41 Club because we were tablers, they may consider suggesting to their children, grandchildren, work colleagues, friends, people they know from elsewhere in the general community, you ought to get into Round Table, guys, because it must have been a hell of a bloody party to be in if these guys are still talking about it 30 years after they were there. So I believe there is merit to it, but it has to be done properly. I don't think it's just a matter of saying open the doors to anyone that walks past. But I believe there are motions afoot from clubs to bring it up at the AGM for discussion, and it's at the point there where clubs and members can make their own comment on that and their decision where it goes. Sorry.
Back to you, Roger.
Well, I think he's Glenn's answered all the questions. I think the only other possible one is what top 3 forward planning ideas are being discussed, and that's for Jim.
Jim and yeah.
Hi guys. Well, there are around about 98 ideas, so I don't plan to go through them all. Some of them were repeated, some of them were slightly different. But certainly on the membership idea, we are looking at very much trying to create a vessel for people to join 41 Club from table, where they might turn up to their 41 Club, see the guys there maybe having, you know, soup, chicken, apple crumble, and deciding at 40 years old that's really not for them. They'd rather do something different. So in all instances, we're trying, you know, wherever possible, to try and persuade the clubs to have maybe, should we say, one meeting which is the meal and one meeting which is a little bit more of activity, which will suit both people. And I think I mentioned earlier, you know, 41 Club has to be that menu where if you want to do something other than what your 41 Club's doing, there should be a ways to do it. Now, some of the things we're looking at is maybe looking at a regional structure. As I say, these are all things we're just looking at the moment. There may be, should we say, somewhere where we can open up regional 41 clubs based on the round table regions, where people will come straight across into them, and we get 41 clubs to go and pitch their club to those people to say, you know, well, you know, we don't do chicken, we do beef. And, oh, well, that's for me. But there are, you know, as I say, there are absolutely loads of, should we say, membership ideas that, you know, as a board, we've got together, we've allocated them out. Glenn, bless his cotton socks, got them, the majority of them. And Glenn's working through them, you know, sort of like eating that elephant, you know, one bite at a time.
Roger?
Well, there's a comment there from Ian Mackenzie. It's not really a question, but I assume everybody can read it.
I think that was answered earlier by Bernard, wasn't it? About the electronic voting.
Yeah, well.
No, he's mentioned on open membership, which was referred to the previous question. So it wasn't even suggested, Ian. That wasn't suggested.
Any more, Rog?
No, no more.
Okay. I hope you've all of you that have had the goodness to attend the meeting. It shows that you have shown some interest towards the association, and I hope you found it informative.
Another question's come up.
Pardon?
Another statement's come up at the end. I don't know you picked that up.
Okay, John, I've not seen it. No. You want to pick on the what's called, Roger?
I can't see it. No, don't know.
Ian Mackenzie has said, basically it's not a statement, it's a question. You cannot have a vote on open membership unless you have an online voting that the matter should be available to all clubs, not exclusive to those attending the conference.
Yeah, we discussed that. We discussed that.
Yeah, we've talked about that.
Yeah, so that's all in there. So okay, I think we've done enough for tonight anyway. So thank you all for attending, showing your commitment to the association, and we look forward to trying to do another one sort of end of February to keep you all informed and keep you up to speed before the AGM in Cardiff. And Neil, if you want to send myself and Glenn and probably Jim, we'll get a car load up and come and visit you guys up in Grimsby, and come and have a few drinks with you and chat about things. Just send an invite to my president's diary.
You're on mute,
Neil. There, Neil?
You're on mute, Neil.
Oh, perhaps he don't want us to go.
He's on mute.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry. Yes, I did miss your first part of your comment there, Pete.
Yeah, if you can send us an invite with some dates, and we'll get a carload of us from the board and come up and see you guys.
Yeah,
chat with you all personally.
Yeah, we're busy putting our calendar together for next year for our monthly program events for 41, and we've yet to rustle up some enthusiasm from our round table guys. For all the reasons I've mentioned before, they're just not playing. They don't want it.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll find something, whatever it is, and we'll find a suitable event.
Yeah, Glenn's idea of a joint meeting would be good, because I can easily get Paul Thompson along. He'd be definitely willing to come along with us, and he can talk to the tablers as well.
Yeah, yeah.
Okie dokie.
With that, yeah.
Right. Thanks very much, everyone. Then, and we'll keep you posted for a date in February for another update.
Yep. Okay.
Thanks.
Cheerio, guys.
Thanks, guys. Cheers.
Be safe.
Thanks, the board. Bye.
Cheers.
There's John.
Thanks,
Hi, John.
Was that this John?
It's John, yeah.
Record now.